Hello, I'm Elizabeth Nosek, Curator of Education and Exhibits here at the Colorado Railroad Museum. Over the last year and a half, Small Wonders has featured a variety of objects from our permanent collection. With our upcoming exhibit on Pullman, I thought it might be interesting to focus this episode on a piece from our education collection, the LEGO Pullman Dining Car. While it is a contemporary piece, it has an interesting history all of its own. I'll start by discussing this object's story and how it came to be part of our education collection. Then, I'll use it to explore 19th century Pullman dining cars and their importance to railroad history. Our model was created in 2016 when I curated two exhibits, Eating on the Rails, which discussed how and what people ate on the railroad, and Colorado Trains and Building Blocks, which used Legos to explore some of the museum's unique collection of rail cars. Both exhibits were in the depot's lower gallery, and to help bridge the two exhibits and better illustrate a part of the dining car experience that was not shown elsewhere in the gallery, I commissioned Imagine Rigney, a well-known Colorado Lego artist, to create a model of a Pullman dining car for the Eating on the Rails exhibit. The model took him about 2 weeks to plan and design. The actual build time was an additional 60 hours. The piece itself contains approximately 1,300 to 1,500 individual parts, many of which needed to be specially ordered. Rigney described the end result as being by no means built to whatever scale you are thinking it might be built to. It does not roll on the tracks. The exterior design and floor plan, however, are as accurate as I could make them for an 1860s, 1870s Pullman dining car built out of Lego. Rigney is currently working as a designer in the Netherlands for the Lego company. It was well known that food fit to eat was hard to come by for those traveling by rail in the early days. Railroads in the early to mid-19th century offered a few, if any, amenities, choosing instead to emphasize the speed with which travelers would arrive at their destination. Passengers depended on their own packed baskets or purchased something off the news butchers who carried a variety of goods for sale. Individual eating houses were established as one of the first attempts to feed train passengers. Like a lot of new business models, there was a mixed success. Quality was not consistent, supplies were often inadequate, and some of these establishments catered to a rougher crowd. There was also a swath of enterprising entrepreneurs. These enterprising men and women created food service at the depot counters originally designed to store cargo, adapted train depot platforms to dining spaces, or added a counter to a corner in the depot. Some even carried it directly to the passenger cars themselves. The typical fare might include pot roast, pies, and biscuits. Passengers reported tough beefsteak and bad butter, dried up sandwiches, stale bread, and the inevitable custard pie. The first dining cars were called hotel cars. The hotel car was nothing more or less than a sleeping car with a kitchen built in at one end and facilities for serving meals at tables placed at the berths. It worked, but travelers demanded something better, something more hygienic than eating meals where they would soon expect to sleep. This led to the first true dining car, the Delmonico, which went into regular service on the Chicago and Elton Railway in 1868. The Delmonico was a pretty complete sort of restaurant on wheels and not far different from the dining car of today. At its height, Pullman had 1,700 diners in service. Dining cars have remained relatively unchanged from their earliest designs, which split the car in half with the main dining area featuring tables and seating on one end and on the other a galley or kitchen. Pullman wanted his customers to be impressed and feel that they were traveling in the lap of luxury. The decor of Pullman dining cars in the 1860s and 70s reflected this. The well-appointed cars used exotic wood paneling, often decorated with an array of painted scrollwork, elaborate borders and frames, plush mohair and damask curtains, as well as carved and upholstered furnishings typical to the Victorian period. The average full-size dining car could seat 40 people at a time, and unless the car could completely fill 2 or more times at each meal, it was not considered a profitable run. To take care of the diners, a dining car crew of 9 men was necessary. A conductor or steward signed a receipt for the car equipment before starting on his run over the line, and he was expected to see to it that none of the equipment, not a single napkin or spoon, out of all his stock was missing at the end. The steward's crew, as far as the passengers saw it, consisted of 5 men, almost always African American. Back in the tiny kitchen was the chef, with 2 assistants preparing the food. The kitchen was tiny, less than 5 feet wide and 15 feet long, and the 3 men who worked within it must have a place for everything, including themselves. Obviously, there was no room for the waiters, and these men received their supplies through a small wicket window. If the kitchen was tiny, it was also wonderfully complete. An ice box fit into half the space of the wide platform. The range was the size of a yacht's range. Sinks, pots, and kettles filled inconceivably small spaces. Yet in these tiny cubbyholes, 100, often many more dinners of 7 or 8 courses each, were carefully prepared, with the skill in cooking that was a marvel to restaurateurs the world over. Our LEGO model of a Pullman dining car definitely evokes the luxurious experience of dining on a Pullman dining car in the 19th century. What makes it unique and adds an element of interest for our younger visitors is that it is built out of LEGO bricks they like to work with at home, and might even be able to build their own.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Commenting and sharing in particular may qualify as virtual engagements for important funding programs like the SCFD.